Well, howdy there. My name is Jim Turner, and I'm going to show you some. Yeah, that's right. They're going into orientation navigational flight, and they resemble a swarm because you can see how they're all clustering like a swarm, and there's many hundreds of them, and it's actually growing. It's getting larger and larger and larger, and so this is something that most people have never seen. Now, of course, um, folks who have bees, they've seen this before, right? But those folks who've never seen, don't have bees, they've never seen this thing before. This is all new. And this is who I'm directing that at. So this can be confused for somebody who's starting a new hive, or thinking about getting bees. This kind of activity can be confusing because it can be difficult to tell whether they're actually getting ready to swarm out or doing their orientation flights. So, yeah, they kind of resemble a swarm, right? And so um, that's just a sign that you have a good, healthy hive, right? Now, I've got um, I've got I've got a new cycle of varroa mites going on. So they're back. So they're breeding. The varroa mites are now breeding again in my hive, and that's normal, as far as well, normal. It's normal for this time of year to have varroa mites in the hive. The real key here, when our hives get a varroa mite cycle going on, is to have a way to keep the count down. So when the bees go into the winter, she'll actually stop laying for a period. And it's that delay period that brings down the mite the fastest. Um, but they can still be on the bees because they feed off the fat and the blood of the bees. The fat is when the bees are in larvae stage and they're in the cell with the bees. They'll feed on the fat of the larvae inside the cell. And when they occupy the bee, they'll feed on the blood. And when they attach themselves, they look very much like a crab. If you get a really close up look, like I've caught many crabs, gone to the ocean, taken my boat out, caught lots of crabs, and they just look like tiny, microscopic almost crabs. That's what they look like. Even red and all. Reddish, brownish, whatever. Yeah. And that's actually what they are. They're in the same family as a crab. Same genre. And yeah, that's a big... Yeah, they're filling the sky up there right now, so what you just seen here, that also looks like that up there. So these girls are coming out for the first time, most of them anyway. And also notice something else about my main hive. And it's what they're doing right now. They're mostly coming in with nectar. So when I've got like 10 girls coming in at the same time, rarely do I see one with pollen. So what they're doing is they're filling their nectar sacs and they're focusing on storing honey, building comb, because now they've got this big super up there and they're up there loading that up, right? So I've got 10 frames in that super, and half of that, because I was just up there a little while ago today doing a sugar shake, and half of that super is packed with bees. Half is empty, there's hardly nothing going on over there. The other half are packed tight with bees, which means they're filling out the cone to store the honey for the winter, which is absolutely cool. Because what I'll be doing is I'll be using that honey up there, because I don't eat sugars. Honey is sugar. Oh, I might have like a taste, you know, something like that. But I don't keep it to put it in stuff. I use my grapes for sugar, um, and I leave that condensed, and I'll put that in my soups or just whatever, stir fries, or you know. Same thing with my peaches here. I break that down, and I put them in cubes, and I'll use peaches as sugar, sweetener for stuff, and that's where I get my sugar. And I have these apples that are so sweet. They're so sweet. And so I'll do is I make applesauce in the fall from those apples, and I also use those for sugar. So when I make my oatmeal cookies, I'll use banana as to give it that kind of creamy texture instead of butter. And I might have an applesauce, kind of like critter oatmeal cookie, or I could throw my blackberries or raspberries in there for, you know, strawberries. And so that's kind of oatmeal cookies I make. No dairy, no sugars, nothing like that. Yeah, this is big swarm. I haven't seen one this big for a while. Usually there's just about 1,000 or something coming out. This one's coming out here. There's multiple thousands that are building up here, but I don't see any evidence of a swarm. I took my observational panel out last night, and I saw like a dozen varroa mites, and which is normal this time of year, pushing July. This is when it's really critical. So when I caught my swarm, since I caught my swarm, I also have an observational panel in my new swarm box here. Well, it's a new hive box. That was a swarm. I call it my peach hive now, because that's where I caught it, was in my peach tree. And so I checked that panel yesterday. Zero mites on that. So the mites, when they start to create a colony inside, it's typically when the males start to get laid. So when she starts laying the drones, that's when you see this precipitous. I mean, it can be quick, right? Because she can lay hundreds, if not thousands, of drones. Usually thousands, and so that can really quicken the quantity of varroa mites in the hive, like really fast, like several weeks. You can go from like a dozen to like 1,000. You know, they'll lay them that fast. And I forgot what the egg cycle is, but it's just an example. It can the mite cycle, once it gets established, can really rock it. There's one of those jumping spiders on my foot. Is that a jumping spider? No, it's a fly. And so, and by having this observational panel on there, which is really cool. Oh, they ate all the powdered sugar that was falling down, and they really liked the powdered sugar. And so the front was all white from me doing a powdered sugar on the top. It was kind of going everywhere, and the whole front panel there was like spotted white, and they've eaten it all up. And so it's the system that I designed, and the way that I designed it is to catch those varroa mites that come out of the cell. They're still, not very coordinated, and so they'll kind of sit there usually until they got enough energy to get on another bee and attach themselves and that kind of thing. But what happens many times is the bees are moving around, they get knocked off, and they fall on the bottom board, and they gather their energy eventually, and then they hop onto another bee coming by. I eliminated that cycle by having that screen, 8-inch hardware cloth in there. When that happens, they fall through that screen easy. It's like falling through the Grand Canyon compared to their size. Yeah, and so it's kind of like throwing a golf ball through the hoop of a basketball hoop. Yeah, that's how much room they have to fall through compared to the size of the hole and their size. And so once they fall through that hole, they're done. They get attacked. They fall onto that sticky vegetable oil. I mean, not even my bees can get off. I've seen some bees get on there. I had to help them, right? So a bee can't get off of that. You know those little varroa mites. What little contact and they're done. And so the varroa mites that I saw last night, they were white. So that means they're newly hatched varroa mites. They're coming out of the cells, and just from the bees moving around, which is natural anyway. Even if I didn't have my screen board down there, this is something that happens naturally. They fall down. The varroa mites gather their strength, and they start to turn their brown color, and they jump on another bee and keep that cycle growing. So by having the screen board, I can keep that whittled down, so that when I go into the fall, instead of having a life cycle of varroa mites that might be 1,000 or 2,000 in there, maybe I have 100 or two. That's good. That's actually okay. To go into fall and winter with that level of varroa mite count in total in a hive, they'll be just fine. And so when a fly, I think it's a fly. So when the varroa mites start reinfecting a hive like this, and the bees haven't seen any for a while, and they've lost that cycle of grooming, because I haven't powdered sugar in I think 3 months or more, because I haven't seen any. So most if not all of these girls that are now in here have never seen a powder shake. They've never experienced that cycle of grooming. So what I have to do now is reestablish that social interaction of instinctively grooming. I need to get that cycle of grooming back again. And yeah, the life cycle of bees is 30 to 45 days. And I haven't powder shaken 3 months. Well, yeah, all these girls are new. All the girls from the last time I powder shake are gone. All these are new girls. Never seen a powder shake in their life. They just got one today. They're like, what's happening? Right? Not a one have ever seen a powder shake. Never experienced that sky falling on their head. There's a lot of baby flies. And so, yeah, it's a new experience for them. What is talking on flies, man? More like pests. And so I'm in that groove of reestablishing that grooming culture, because it's gone. I suspect it's gone. That's something that has to be, reinforced from time to time, and it hasn't been reinforced for a quarter of a year, right? And so now I'm going, okay, here we go again, and that's how I'm going to manage my bees from now on. Now, if I see the count growing, here's an example. Yesterday I saw 12. I did a sugar shake in 12 hours. 12 hours later, I did a sugar shake. Now, in a week, if I pull my observational panel out and I see 50, okay, now I'm going to sugar shake every 4 days. And I'll sugar shake every 4 days until I get it down below 20. That's what I did last time. Once it was down below 20, I went to once a week. And then once I seen none, I stopped and didn't do anything at all, not even pull my panel for 3 weeks. Still no varroa mites. A lot of comb building activity, but no varroa mites. I saw a lot of hive beetles, gnat hive beetles. Saw a lot of those though. no varroa mites. So now that the varroa mites are getting reestablished, okay, starting my cleansing and my grooming culture again. These girls probably have no idea. Why are you tapping on me? Well, I'm grooming you, Sarah. Sue, I'm grooming you. What's this grooming? What's this grooming thing? Well, you've got some sweetness on you. That would be the powdered sugar, right? So I'm starting that grooming cycle all over. Okay, the navigation process has slowed dramatically. It's starting to almost look normal, see? It went from that big thing, almost looked like a swarm. Sometimes it's so big, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, they're swarming out, right? Because it gets like such a big ball, I'm thinking I'm about to lose my bees. And so now it's pretty much back to normal. It doesn't take them long to actually navigate, do the orientation. It doesn't take them long. These girls over here, my peach hive, yeah, that's going to be a while. So it's been a month. So actually, I should start seeing some orientation flights going on. Big honking fly. Some orientation flights going on soon, actually. They're going to be small at first. But because they've got so much comb built out now, these are comb builders over here. These girls ain't messing around. They're getting her done. And, oh, got a sad story. So I had this bee. She was the only one guarding that entryway the first 2 weeks. I had that entry wide open. I kept it open 24 hours a day because I wanted all the lost girls to be able to easily find their way in. The ones that are still trying to go from the old original place they swarmed to there. So I left it open for, I think, well, about a week, week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. I don't know, somewhere there. And so there's this one girl going back and forth, and I kept food for her. She was the only one that would eat that. She was the only one that ate that food. And she was always, anytime I was here seeing what's going on, she was always up in that food. She would run right back because she would use it to recharge. And right back to going back and forth. Multipass, inspecting every bee, the ones going in and the ones going out. Right? And that went on until I reduced the entrance, and she kind of looked confused. Like, oh, I got this little, huh? And she would still go up there and get food, and she would still inspect everybody coming out. So today I saw her walking around that cap, and then all of a sudden she just dropped off the edge. Yeah, she's gone. She was so good at being a guard. Her wings stayed spread out. In fact, when she dropped off the edge today, when I saw her fall down, probably for getting around to her last breath, she still had those wings spread out, and she's the only bee. She had accepted that burden of being the only guard of that whole length of that entrance. I never seen any other bee guarding that entrance, just her. And so she dropped off today, took herself off. She looked like she was struggling. She dropped off. She walked towards me, towards my direction. And I picked up a stick and I picked her up and put her back on there. She walked to the edge and she flew that way, and I don't know where she landed. She's going like, I'm done. Don't put me back in here. I need to get away. I'm passing away. She took her last flight. Right this way. Right past me. Oh, okay. Yeah. That was one brave girl, man. She took on that whole entryway all by herself. She had absolutely no help. Over on my hive and the hives I've had in the past, there was always a lot of girls up front taking up the slack. They had each other's back, guarding the entrance. This girl did it all by herself. Not one bee helped, and she accepted the responsibility as her duty. Wow. That's just interesting, man. That's just an interesting, true story, right? Interesting, true story. As I mumble along, yeah, they cleaned up that whole landing board of all that sugar, powdered sugar. Looks clean now. It was all white. They ate it up. Yeah. So I've got all these girls coming in here, virtually no pollen, because they're probably thinking, oh, we've got plenty of pollen in here. What we need is storage of food. So now what they're coming in predominantly is nectar. Their nectar sacs or honey sacs are coming in full of honey. With their honey sacs are full, and so when they're taking in that nectar into their honey gut part, they have two guts. One's the regular gut, and one is their honey sac bag, right? And so as they're taking in nectar off of a flower, or wherever they can get it, including a Coke bottle, if there's some Coke and there's some sugar, it starts turning into honey, like bam. The enzymes are in there, breaking it down and converting it into honey in the honey sac. And so when they get back here, when they fly in here, and I see that the ones don't have any pollen on their legs, I know that they're not coming back empty. I used to always think they're coming back empty. They ain't nothing on their legs. Why is there 30 girls coming in with nothing compared to one that just now came in with some pollen? Well, that's because they're focused on the nectar. Storage. The nectar is the storage for through the winter. So they're really heavy in bringing in honey right now. And they're starting to fill up the super. Now the one over here, opposite. The one over here, they're focused on pollen. And the reason why they're focused on pollen is because they use the pollen to make into bee bread to cap the brood. And they use that to make the royal jelly. They combine it with they combine the honey, the pollen, and they even put in some propolis, some rare ingredients, and they make a royal jelly, and they give that to the queen. They give that to the larvae. They put a drop of royal jelly into each egg, and that's what the larvae eats off. That's what allows it to grow and turn into. It goes from an egg to a larvae, and then of course the bee. So they use all that resources, but their main incoming on this one right now is honey. Over here, it's both. It's probably about. Well, we used to, for a while it was mostly pollen, but it looks like they're now starting to bring in more honey. So it looks like it's about 50-50 honey that's coming in on the peach hive and pollen. Yeah. So just now 3 flew in. One was loaded with honey. 2 were loaded with pollen. So it's looking like it's shifting to 50-50. At first it was like they were all loaded with pollen. They were probably filling their pollen sacs, and their honey sacs. So these girls are coming back with a full sack of honey, and they have pollen. And some of them, they fill their bags so full, they don't want I don't want to carry no pollen. I'm full of honey. I don't think I can get pollen on my legs. And that's it. So I'm going to be making podcasts of this adventure. Oh, please subscribe, thumbs up, ring the bell, leave a comment. I see that as a tip. So if you don't mind tipping me by just subscribing me, appreciate that. And so I'm going to keep an update on the process of varroa mite control. Now, this observational paddle, it does a lot more. I have discovered so many other things that my system, the way I've got it set up, what I can do, right? It's really cool what I can do without, I don't have to take my hive apart. I don't have to dismantle it. What's going on here? What's going on? I don't have to dismantle my hive to do investigations, right? My observational panel tells me everything that's going on, including the progression, right? Even if I wanted to know if they're making a queen cell, which can maybe get ready to swarm out, if I take my white panel out the night before, I put in a nice clean panel, and I put that in there, and if I see a heavy spot, because that cone is much bigger than any other spot, any other part of the frame, and they're working that one spot to build up that extended cone in just that one spot when the rest of the cone is flat, and I see a congregation or a buildup of cone pieces in that one spot, I'm going to make the assumption, rational, reasonable, practical assumption, that they are building a queen cell to swarm out. And then I'll take countermeasures. I'll either go in there and squash the queen cells, or I will add well, actually, I'll probably have to do that anyway. So I'll probably go in and squash the queen cells, add an extra box, or do a split. All without having to take my hive apart to do those investigations. That, to me, is so disruptive. and by doing this, this process, all that disruption is gone. The only time I'm going to disrupt the hive is to do a split. That's it. All right. Please subscribe, thumbs up, ring the bell, and I'll continue this process of my design and how efficient that it works or not. So if something's not working out right, like I designed everything to work out right, it's important that I make a podcast of that, because I will likely make some adjustments if I need to, because I'm not one of those people that has concrete on his shoes. No, I don't get locked in position, and I don't get locked in my perceptions, because that's all they are. I look at my perceptions as subjective, but I try to go objective, right? So it's a mix. First I see it as the most objective thing to do, but then I'm ready to call it subjective, and then I readjust the subjectiveness of something, right? Like, oh, that wasn't a good way to bend that. Oh, it broke. It looked good at the moment, that kind of thing. And so, yeah, I don't have any concrete shoes on where I feel locked in place or hard to move. I keep my thoughts and perspectives fluid. I'm ready to give up a thought that I thought was legitimate for something that now it's obviously more empirical, because it's more reproducible, it has a higher ethnicity of studies, and it makes more sense now. There's more clarity, you know what I'm saying? I got more clarity. I'm going to make this adjustment, and I'm going to do it right now. I'll never hold on to bad information once I realize it's bad information, even though it was good at the time. Oh yeah, I like being fluid. I used to be a swimmer. I swim in a lot of fluid called water. High dives, somersaults. Yeah, I just got out of kindergarten. I was getting ready to go in 6th grade. Took up swimming. Oh yeah, that was fun. Doubles, triples. One time I tried to triple off the high dive. I split my gut open. That was the last time I tried a triple. I stayed with the 2.5s. I literally split it open. It was bleeding. I could see like tissue and looked like white fat in my gut. Yeah, that was the last 3.5. I tried. Nobody else would try it. I had 3, 4 friends, including a brother. We were all doing the same stuff. And I decided I'd give it a go, and yeah, bad go. I literally sunk to the bottom. I could see my shadow because it knocked me out. So I was unconscious. I would say conscious, but yet kind of like a semi-unconscious. It's like, at first I went unconscious, and then I came to, and I could see the shadow of my body like this, spread out. Spread out. I could see the shadow of the sun coming down. I could see the bottom of the 12-foot pool. I could see my shadow all spread out. And then I hit the bottom, boom, and that brought me to enough to where I was able to swim up. And as I was coming up, I saw the lifeguard on his toes, getting ready to come in and save me. And he saw my head pop up, and I looked up at him. I went, And he didn't sit down right away. He was waiting for certain body language, you know, make sure I was going to make it to the edge. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Yeah, skydiving off the high dive. All right, have a good one now. Bye.